Rain slammed the alley so hard it felt like the sky was emptying a bucket, and over the thunder I heard a kid say, "Please don't hurt me, I can't walk." So I braked headlights cutting through the sheets of water. And there she was, a little girl with a soaked bandage on her leg, a woman fisting her wrist like it was a handle, and that look kids get when they already know nobody is coming. I stepped out without thinking, told the woman my name, that I work with a children's foundation, asked if the kid needed help, and she flashed me this thin smile like a blade. "Mind your business, she's being dramatic." Then slapped the girl so hard the sound felt dry in the rain. And yeah, that happened. So I stood between them, called the precinct. With one hand shrugged off my coat with the other, and draped it over the kid who whispered, "My name is Ella," like she was afraid the air would break it. The officers showed up quick. Photos, questions, the bandage that used to be a dish towel. And the social worker said the shelter was full, a couple days to place her. Could I keep Ella temporarily supervised, of course. And I looked through the ER glass at this small person dozing with my coat under her chin, leg, swollen lips pale, and I heard myself say, "Yeah, a few days." When we got home, Grace had the kettle going, and that calm, practical look she gets when a room needs a grown-up, no speech, just warm milk, clean clothes, a call to our doctor, a towel beside the sink, and a spot on the sofa made into a nest. Ella kept her eyes on every exit like a rabbit that survived the wrong yard, both hands around the mug like it was a passport. And when she fell asleep to the sound of rain on the roof, Grace sat nearby, not touching, just breathing slow so the house would copy her. While I opened the laptop and signed the temporary care papers that were supposed to be simple, you know what I mean? A bridge until the system could do its job. The doctor rewrapped her leg in the morning, frowned at the old fracture that never set right, said 3 weeks off, it regular meals, gentle exercises. If we teach pain to wait, it learns to take over. And Grace stuck a medicine schedule to the fridge with a silly magnet, then left a notebook and crayons on the coffee table, without a lecture. Which is how you tell a kid this place is safe without using the word safe. We adjusted the crutches together, the wooden kind with soft grips, and counted steps out loud like we were training the floor to be kinder. "Good job, take the win, sit down." By day 3, the house had changed temperature. Not louder, just warmer. The spoon taps, the porridge steam, the dog we did not own yet, but somehow adopted that week, sleeping against Ella's cast, like security with a crooked tail. At night she started drawing us. 2 tall sticks and 1 small with a yellow cast, and a cat that looked like a potato with ears. And Grace would smile like a prayer answered sideways, because after 3 miscarriages, she had trained herself not to hope out loud. On the day the social worker called about an open bed across town, I stared at the transfer form and at Grace's note on my desk. She laughed this morning, and at Ella curled under a blanket with my coat like it had chosen her, and I couldn't sign not yet, so I asked for a few more days. If life were neat, that would be the arc. Rescue, routine recovery. But life likes a twist, and ours came with a hospital call. "Are you caring for a minor named Ella Miller?" A pause. "Her father, Thomas, is alive, spinal complications, wants to see her." So we went, and in room 312, a frail man with good eyes reached for her and fell short, and she closed the distance with one hand, like it was always supposed to be there. "Dad." And the word wasn't a word. It was a door. The doctor said what doctors say when time is small, and I asked for a notary, because sometimes love needs paperwork, and Thomas signed a shaky line that transferred guardianship to us and whispered, "Please don't let her grow up thinking she's a burden." And I promised, then drove home slow enough to hear the windshield wipers think. 2 days later, the hospital called again, and we wore black without saying the color out loud. Mall funeral, small photograph, big ache. Ella pressed her palm to the pine and said, "I can walk farther now, Dad." And I had to look at my shoes, because grief can crack a man in public if he isn't careful. If you think that's where kindness wins and credits roll, I wish, but that's when Claire, the woman from the alley, found a microphone and a headline. "They took my child because I'm poor." And the cameras liked her cracks better than our quiet facts. Ella shrank from windows, Grace kept the kettle on, and I hired a lawyer who ages storms for a living. We built a file you wish you never need. Precinct report, medical statements, photos of bruises at different stages, neighbor affidavits. Claire's debt slips, a home check that read like a warning label, and the state filed to terminate her rights. The family courtroom had no audience, just cold lights, a clock too loud, a judge who watched like he'd seen versions of us 100 times. And when the medical rep said, "Old fracture, malnourished, prolonged neglect," Claire popped up and screamed bribery and fate and who knows what, and the bailiff guided her back like a shopping cart that won't go straight. The child psychologist explained fear like a muscle that cramps if you overuse it. And then it was Ella's turn in a side room with a camera and a social worker who gave her a nod that meant you're allowed to tell the truth. Grace squeezed my hand so hard my ring left a mark, and I counted the grooves in the bench, because sometimes wood is the only thing that understands waiting. And through the speaker we heard Ella say, in that careful way she has, "When I lived with Claire, if I didn't sell enough, I didn't eat. I fell once because I was sick, and she said money doesn't fall from the sky. Please don't send me back there." And the quiet that followed made paper look heavy. The judge turned a few pages that did not need turning, looked up at us, and then at the door where Ella would step through and said, "Guardianship to Andrew and Grace Carter, rights of Claire Morton, terminated 6 months supervision." Gavel, 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 and I breathed like I had been holding the air for weeks, because I had. In the hallway, Ella took my hand and Grace's and stood very still. "Am I allowed to call you Dad now?" And I didn't trust my voice, so I nodded first, then said the only right answer, "You can call me whatever feels like home." And on the fridge that night, Grace erased temporary and wrote Carter Family 3 in chalk like a spell. First day of school, we did the lunchbox note because of course we did. A new beginning is small, but you don't walk alone. And that afternoon, Ella came home with a photo where 2 girls leaned in without asking about scars, and she taped a square of colored paper above the sink. Day 1 without fear. And I had to go outside and stare at the garden until my face calmed down. You'd think signing the adoption application would feel like finishing a race, but it felt like stepping into the job I was born to do, so I put my name where it needed to go and told Grace the idea we had been orbiting since the rain. A small place where kids like Ella can start fresh. No bunkhouse vibe, just light good soup and rules that feel like hands. And she said, "What will you call it?" And we asked Ella and she said, "Lily Home, because lilies bloom even in the rain." And that was that. We cleared the downstairs office, painted the walls a color that forgives, hung a whiteboard with 3 lines. Everyone is heard, everyone heals, everyone learns to trust again. And the first week we welcomed 4 kids, a boy abandoned in a park, 2 siblings who ran from a mean bottle, a girl who stared at crayons like they might bite. Ella showed them how to trust stairs and crutches, and people handed out paper stars, for brave moments told them, "If you fall, you try again. Falling isn't a punishment here." And the room learned to breathe at the speed of small victories. A local reporter wrote a gentle piece, no hype, just truth. And donations started showing up like steady rain, not a flood, which is perfect for roots. Do we live happily ever after with no paperwork or pushback? Come on, you know the world. There are still appeals, op-eds about money, and motive strangers who read headlines and think they know us, nights when Ella pads down the hall at 2 a.m. to make sure our door is open. and we tell her it is and will be every time. But there are also afternoons when she helps a new kid count to 5 before fear decides, mornings when Lily home smells like cinnamon and possibility, and evenings when Grace writes in the medical log, "Good appetite, deep sleep, learn to ask for help." And that log is my favorite book. So here's my question for you, because stories are mirrors. Was the court right to end Claire's rights, or do you think poverty got punished instead of the cruelty that hid behind it? Did money tilt the floor, or just buy enough time for the truth to be heard? And what would you have done in that alley when the rain hit hard and a kid said, "Please don't hurt me, I can't walk"? Would you step in, call it in, or keep your head down and pray someone else had the stomach for it? Tell me where you stand in the comments. Call me out if you think I'm wrong. Share the moment that hit you. The rainy rescue, the father's last wish, the gavel the first day without fear. And if you believe kids shouldn't have to earn safety tap, hit subscribe for more real stories. And let me know where you're watching from so Lily Home knows how big our neighborhood really is.